Nuclear energy, a beautiful balance of water, nuclear fuel, steam, and some science, an invisible dance of action and reaction which produces energy to power the entire cities without smoke and fire. But one mistake, one human error can disrupt this beautiful balance and cause an unimaginable catastrophe. During the Cold War, there was a race among the two superpowers to excel in every field possible. Harnessing nuclear energy was one of such fields. At the heart of this race were Soviet Union RBMK reactors. These reactors used graphite for the nuclear reaction and water to cool down the core. At the time of an accident, Soviet Union was using 17 of such reactors. On 26 April 1986, reactor number 4 in the Chernobyl Nuclear Power Plant near the city of Pripyat in the north of Ukraine blew up with a loud blast. At that time, the reactor was undergoing an experiment or a test. The plant was being run on only 7% power. The test was being carried out to determine how long turbines would spin and supply power to the main circulating pumps, following a loss of main electric power supply. A series of factors, inadequate training of operators and faulty design of the reactor contributed to the worst nuclear meltdown of human history. The test was to be conducted during the day shift of 25th of April 1986 as a part of a scheduled reactor shutdown. As planned, a gradual reduction in the output of the power unit began at 1:06 p.m. on 25th April, and the power level had reached 50% of its nominal 3,200 megawatt thermal level by the beginning of the day shift. The day shift was scheduled to perform the test at 2:15 p.m., and preparations for the test were carried out, including the disabling of the emergency core cooling system. But as the nature would have it, another regional power station unexpectedly went offline at 2 p.m. The Kyiv electric grid controller requested that the further reduction of Chernobyl's output be postponed as power was needed to satisfy the peak evening demand, so the test was postponed. It was not until the night shift joined that the Kyiv electrical grid allowed for further reduction in the output. All this time, the reactor was working without its emergency core cooling system and at a reduced power. RBMK reactors work on a balance of various factors. On one side, there is a nuclear fuel and its reactivity. On the other side, there are boron control rods to control the reactivity, essentially bringing balance to the system and working as brakes to the nuclear reaction. Then there is a third element, water, to keep the reactor cool and functioning. This water produces steam, which is called positive void coefficient, and this in return produces more steam. More steam means more heat, and more heat means more reactivity, and so on. Then there is negative temperature coefficient. It means when the nuclear fuel gets hotter, it becomes less reactive. So the fuel increases reactivity. Boron rods and water reduces it. Steam increases it, and rise in temperature reduces it. Perfectly balanced to produce the clean energy without any greenhouse gases. A beautiful balance indeed. These RBMK reactors have a byproduct, xenon-135, also called nuclear poison, which in normal circumstances is burned through the nuclear reaction. Xenon reduces the reactivity, but as the power plant was working at reduced power since the day shift, xenon was in the system, unburned, disturbing the balance. Because of the poison, the reactivity slows down and the reactor is not hot enough to produce steam, further reducing reactivity and so on. A highly unbalanced reactor until now. The only way to increase power at such a stage and bring back the balance was to do it very, very slowly, over the course of 24 hours by gently pulling out the boron control rods. The operators, instead of doing it slowly, pulled out immediately 205 out of total 211 control rods. The brakes of the reactors now pulled out. As the fuel got cold, the negative temperature coefficient is no longer in the reactor. The only thing keeping the reactor checked is water and xenon. As part of the test, the water pumps are now shut down. The emergency cooling system is already shut down, pulling the water out of the equation from a highly unstable reactor. Nuclear fuel is now totally unchecked. Remaining water in the system is turned into steam, which in turn produces more heat, and it produces more steam, and the resulting vicious circle is creating the destructive level of imbalance. It is no longer a reactor, but a nuclear bomb. Operators saw how the reactor has gone out of their hands. They decided to press AZ5 button, the abort button. It means complete shutdown of nuclear reaction by inserting all the boron control rods back in the reactor at once. But then comes the design flaw of RBMK reactors. The tips of the boron rods are made of graphite because it is cheaper that way. Graphite increases the reactivity, and as soon as the AZ5 button is pressed, the graphite tips worked as the catalyst to highly unstable reactor. The reaction in the core skyrockets and boom. Up to 30% of Chernobyl's 190 metric tons of uranium was now in the atmosphere, and the Soviet Union eventually evacuated 335,000 people, establishing a 19-mile-wide exclusion zone around the reactor. At least 28 people initially died as a result of the accident, while more than 100 were injured. The United Nations Scientific Committee on the effects of atomic radiation has reported that more than 6,000 children and adults developed thyroid cancer after being exposed to radiation from the incident. What remains of the reactor is now inside a massive steel containment structure deployed in late 2016 through the cooperation of G7 countries. Containment efforts and monitoring continue, and cleanup is expected to last until at least 2065.